I never imagined a simple request would lead to a heartwarming union that changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air felt dense, like a storm was brewing. I held my breath as I stood in the middle of that crowded coffee shop, the aroma of burnt beans mixing with the palpable tension. My hands trembled, gripping the edges of the table, heart racing, thudding in my chest like a drum. I had just asked a favor, a simple one. But I could sense the shift in the atmosphere, as if a heavy curtain was drawn across the room, trapping us in its shadows. People glanced my way, eyes wide, whispers swirling in clouds of uncertainty. Did she really just ask that? I heard someone say, their voice cutting through the silence like glass breaking. In the corner, my best friend stood frozen, mouth slightly agape, betraying a mixture of shock and concern. Hannah had always been my rock, but in that moment, I couldn't tell if she was here for support, or if she wanted to escape. The request? Something innocent, maybe too innocent. I was searching for my missing brother, who'd vanished without a trace just months before. Nobody seemed to care, just another name added to the list of lost souls in the city. But I had to believe he was still out there, somewhere, waiting for me to find him. My heart sank as I replayed our last conversation, the urgency in his voice still echoing in my mind. I dared to approach the strangers with hope shimmering in my eyes, but they recoiled, as if I had offered them a venomous bite instead of an olive branch. "You're putting yourself in danger," a barista warned, her fingers trembling as she wiped down the counter. "You have no idea what you're stepping into." Her words hung in the air, thick with warnings. The world around me grew dimmer. Shadows danced, and the noise faded into a haunting silence. I began to question if believing in the impossible was worth the risk. What if the truth was darker than I imagined? My stomach twisted, a knot tightening as uncertainty twisted my heart. Just then, a figure appeared in the doorway. Tall, cloaked, silhouetted against the light behind them. My breath hitched. "What do you want?" I wanted to shout, but all I could manage was a whisper, tension thickening around me. A chill crawled up my spine. I wasn't ready for whatever storm this new character would bring. Did someone say they needed help? Their voice deep and captivating, sending shivers through the crowd. The murmurs of disbelief rose again, a crescendo of doubt and excitement. The stranger stepped forward, revealing a face that flickered with mystery, blue eyes, intense and piercing. They looked straight at me, as if my desperate plea had summoned them from the shadows. "Are you here to help?" I barely managed to ask, feeling the weight of the world, my brother missing, pressing down on my chest. Was this the answer I sought, or the very beginning of my downfall? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The figure stepped closer, and I could see the details of their face. A faint scar traced along their cheek, a 5 o'clock shadow that hinted at both weariness and resolve. "I can help," they said again, their voice like gravel mixed with honey, resonating with an odd warmth that momentarily softened the chill surrounding me. "Help how?" My voice trembled, skepticism battling against a flicker of hope. I felt Hannah's tension beside me, a frantic energy bubbling just beneath the surface. "I know things about the people your brother was involved with," the stranger replied, lowering their voice as though the very walls were listening. "They're dangerous. But I can guide you, show you how to navigate this world. You don't have to do it alone." A heavy silence enveloped us, the weight of the unasked question hanging between us. Was my brother indeed involved in something sinister? The thought left a bitter taste in my mouth. I stared into the depths of the stranger's blue eyes, searching for a hint of deception, but all I could see was a reflection of my own desperation. "What's your name?" I managed to ask, feeling the urge to grasp at any semblance of trust. "Call me Sam." The name slipped from their lips, simple yet laden with layers of untold stories. While a part of me screamed to run, to pull away from this unusual connection as the weight of the room pressed on, the other part, the one that had fought relentlessly for months, felt a small anchor amidst the chaos. "If you know about my brother, why didn't you come forward sooner?" I pressed, a defensive edge creeping into my tone. "Because I was afraid." Sam's honesty cut through the haze, a strange relief washing over me. "Afraid of what might happen if I got involved. Your brother, he isn't just missing. He's part of something much larger, something that could swallow you whole if you're not careful." Hannah's presence beside me offered a comforting reality check, her hand squeezing my shoulder. "We have to be cautious," she whispered, barely masking her concern. The fleeting moment of connection with Sam tangled with the bitter tang of fear that we could very well be stepping onto a path we couldn't return from. I took a deep breath, a mix of resolve and anguish curling in my gut. "I can't walk away," I said, my voice firmer as I faced the stranger's penetrating gaze. "My brother needs me, and he'll do whatever it takes. Then follow me." Sam turned, and I hesitated for a brief heartbeat, casting a quick glance at Hannah. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of worry and encouragement, urging me to seize this moment. "Well, do it together," she said softly, affirming a bond strengthened by our past hardships. I nodded, the weight in my heart a little lighter with her support. As we stepped outside, the world felt different, vibrant and daunting, as if we had crossed over into another realm. The evening sky was drenched in shades of crimson and indigo, the setting sun whispering secrets of what lay ahead. Sam led us down side streets, alleys bustling with the hum of city life but filled with an unsettling edge. I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes watched us from the shadows. In that moment of uncertainty, just as a flicker of hope began to envelope me, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. With shaking hands, I fished it out, glancing at the caller ID. It was an unknown number. "Hello?" I answered cautiously, heart pounding. "Is this Julia?" The voice on the other end was unnervingly calm, stirring an icy dread deep within me. "You may not know me, but I have information about your brother." My heart raced, and I glanced at Sam, who had halted in his step, sharp intensity pulling back into his eyes. "Who is this?" I demanded, gripping the phone tight while Hannah leaned in, sensing the shift. "We need to meet. They're watching you. And time is running out." There was a pause, a moment where the world seemed to teeter just on the brink of revelation. "I know where he is." The line went dead, leaving only silence roaring in my ears, and every ounce of hope I had clattered instantaneously into shards at my feet. I dropped the phone, staring at the distant horizon where the sun had now surrendered to night, darkness creeping in like a predator ready to pounce. Hannah's grip on my arm tightened, worry flooding her expression. "What do we do now?" she whispered. I met Sam's unyielding gaze, a wild mixture of fear and determination surging within me. "We find him. We have to." My voice conveyed a resolve that I wasn't sure I felt. As we prepared to venture deeper into the unknown, the uncertainty gripped me, each step intensifying the gnawing feeling in my gut. What lay ahead was perilous, and though our hearts stirred with hope, shadows lurked, threatening to obliterate everything I held dear. Little did I know, the darkness had its own plans, and I was merely the puppet in a game far larger than myself. The air was thick with tension as Sam took the lead, weaving through narrow streets aglow with flickering streetlights. My heart pounded in synchrony with my footsteps, a continuous reminder of the urgency that had just surged through me. The call still echoed in my mind, each word a haunting reminder of the fragile balance between hope and despair. "They're watching you." What did that mean? Were we in danger already? A cool breeze brushed against my skin, and I shuddered, pulling my jacket tighter around me. Hannah walked closely beside me, her warmth an anchor against the impending storm. "We can do this," she whispered, sending me a small, reassuring smile despite the uncertainty that loomed over us. I could sense her fear, yet she was striving to keep it at bay, just as I was. "Where are we going?" I couldn't help but ask Sam, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, his focus sharp as he navigated through the labyrinth of the city. "To find someone who can tell you more," he replied without turning back, his voice steady. "But you need to trust me. This isn't just casual gossip, It could be crucial. Trust is a tall order when I know next to nothing about you, Sam, I muttered, the bitter taste of skepticism still lingering on my tongue. Yet beneath my reservations lay an inexplicable tug toward him, a tether to whatever knowledge he had, however dangerous it might be. Laughter drifted from a nearby cafe, a stark contrast to our grim reality. A group of friends gathered outside, their faces illuminated by the warmth of shared stories. It was a fleeting reminder of what normalcy felt like, the simplicity of companionship, of safety. I caught Hannah stealing glances at them, and for a moment, I could almost see the longing mirrored in her eyes. When had we last experienced that unguarded joy? But the laughter faded into the background as Sam led us down a darker alley, the chatter dissipating into the silence that embraced us. The shadows grew longer and colder, wrapping around us like a suffocating blanket. Suddenly, the sharp sound of a footstep echoed behind us, and I turned to look. A figure stood at the edge of the alley, just outside the dim light, their features obscured. I froze, my breath hitching. Sam, I whispered, my heart racing yet again. Keep walking, he urged, his voice low and urgent. With Hannah's hand still firmly clasped around my arm, I hesitated for a moment, but I couldn't let fear dictate my actions. I held my breath, taking slow steps forward, willing myself to remain calm despite the gnawing instinct screaming that danger was closer than ever. Just as we reached the end of the alley, the figure stepped into the light, allowing me to glimpse their face. It was an old man, weathered and frail, with eyes that seemed to hold secrets of ages past. There was a strange familiarity in his gaze, as though he recognized something in me. Julia? He called out, his voice gravelly, almost melodic. I turned abruptly, shock rippling through me. How do you know my name? I demanded, my pulse quickening. Your brother, he sent me. Before I could comprehend, Sam moved protectively in front of me. What do you know about him? The man took a step forward, hands raised in surrender. I mean no harm. I'm here to help. What do you know? Hannah echoed, her voice cutting through the tension. There was strength in her, an unyielding resolve that I admired yet feared would soon be tested. The darkness he's involved in is deeper than you can imagine. But he left you a message away to find him before it's too late. Where is he? The question tumbled from my lips, the possibility flickering like a candle in the night. But the man's expression shifted, casting a shadow over my flickering hope. They have him, he said solemnly. It's a powerful organization. You need to be cautious. If they know you have been looking, he trailed off, the implications hanging in the air. What do I have to do? My heart was a wild drumbeat, each thud resonating with purpose. The stranger's gaze softened as he studied me. You have to outsmart them. The message is hidden, but it will guide you. You must go to the old docks, where the forgotten vessels lie. Follow the map, and you may yet bring him home. What map? I started to ask, but before I could voice my question, the old man stepped backward, fading back into the shadows, a cryptic figure disappearing beneath the cloak of night. Wait! I called out, but it was too late. He was gone, swallowed by the darkness, leaving us in a void of confusion and uncertainty. What do we do now? Hannah's voice was quivering, but beneath her fear was a flicker of determination that I desperately clung to. Docks, I whispered, memories of my childhood flooded back off fishing trips and sunsets over the water, all blissfully untouched by the shadows now closing in on us. Those docks were not just a place. They were a symbol of a life before secrets and danger unveiled themselves. Let's find that map, Sam urged, his voice a grounding force amidst the chaos swirling in my mind. Well, go tonight. Fear clawed at my insides, a deep-seated dread of what we might face. Yet hope dared to flicker in the recesses of my heart. The thought of finding my brother ignited a spark of defiance within me, even as uncertainty continued to bind me. Together, we stepped forward into the night, the air electric with unfulfilled trepidation. The journey to the docks stretched ahead of us like a darkened path scattered with peril, agony, and perhaps, a chance for healing. But as the shadows drew closer, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched not just by the organization that hunted my brother, but by something else altogether, lurking just beyond our reach. I had only begun to grasp the depth of the labyrinth we were entering, unaware that the real test awaited us in the shadows, shifting and waiting for the right moment to strike. And as we began gliding through the labyrinth of the city's underbelly, I couldn't help but wonder if we would be able to find what we were truly looking for or if it would be too late. The streets morphed into an unfamiliar blur as we raced toward the old docks. My pulse throbbed in my ears, drowning out the distant sounds of the city. With each hurried step, I felt the weight of the unknown pressing against my chest, mingling with the need to find my brother. The air was thick with moisture, laced with the salty scent of the sea. It felt both oppressive and oddly liberating. Hannah walked beside me, her face illuminated only by the faint glow of a nearby streetlight. I turned to her, searching her eyes for reassurance. "Are you sure about this?" I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. She offered me a faint smile, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. "What choice do we have? We can't just wait around and hope he walks back into our lives." That is what scared me. Thought of waiting. The fear of losing my brother, coupled with the unknown ties that bound him to those shadows. I felt a deep pang of guilt for being swept up in this, but I knew the urgency would not let me retreat. Sam led the way ahead, his demeanor resolute, yet I could see the tension in his form, the tightness of his jaw and the flicker of concern in his eyes. There was something stirring within him, to a mixture of responsibility and perhaps a hint of fear. Sudden footsteps echoed behind us, and I could sense Sam's body tense like a tightly wound string. The previous threat we'd felt lingered in the back of his mind, just as it did in mine. "We're not alone," I said, my voice barely a whisper. Without hesitation, Sam turned to guide us down a less traveled path, cloaked in deeper shadows. Anxiety wove through me, yet I was too driven to let fear take control. "We have to keep moving," he insisted, but as we picked up our pace, I sensed a flicker of warmth, a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. A stray cat darted from one of the side streets, brushing against my leg, almost like a soft reminder that kindness still lingered in the cold. Moments later, we reached the docks, where rotting wood creaked beneath our feet, echoing our fears and relentless determination. Vessels long abandoned swayed gently in the dark water, their hulls worn by storms both real and metaphorical. "Where would the map be?" I asked, my eyes roaming the silhouettes of the forgotten boats. "This way." Sam gestured toward a larger vessel, its once vibrant paint now peeling and faded, a testament to lost stories. As we approached, the silence around us felt suffocating. I hesitated, pondering what awaited us inside. But as we stepped onto the deck, the smell of damp wood mingled with the tang of salt air reminded me of carefree days spent in blissful ignorance. I could almost hear echoes of laughter and joy, untouched by the grief weighing heavy in my heart. It was Hannah who broke the stillness with a whispered, "What if he's not really here?" Her voice trembled, and the vulnerability within made my heart ache. "He is. He has to be," I replied, my own confidence wavering. The urgency of our mission clashed with the reality of what we could discover, or what might lie in wait. We swept through the vessel's rotting interior, searching for anything that could lead us to the map and possibly to my brother. "Look," Sam called out, pointing toward a tattered journal nestled beneath a forgotten cargo. My heart raced as I grabbed it, trembling fingers brushing against the cover. It was worn and yellowed, but a faint sense of familiarity tugged within me. As I opened it, the lid creaked, and there amidst scrawled notes and fragmented thoughts lay a hand-drawn map. My eyes widened, scanning the winding lines and scribbled notes that detailed landmarks I had entrusted to memory, a combination of places both real and analogous, but they all led somewhere. This is it," I exclaimed, my heart pounding like a drum. The reality of holding a piece of my brother's past in my hands was both exhilarating and terrifying. Just then, an ear-splitting crack shattered the silence, and my heart plummeted with dread. Before I could comprehend, the ship lurched violently, tossing us to one side. I lost my grip on the journal, watching it skid across the floor, its pages fanning out like frightened birds. "Get down!" Sam shouted, pushing us to the ground just as a shadowy figure burst through the doorway, a silhouette full of menace. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized the cold, calculating gaze of a man I had seen only in the confines of my nightmares. "You've come looking for trouble, and here I am," he sneered, stepping forward with authority, his every movement calculated and intimidating. Hannah's grip tightened on my arm as we huddled together, the sense of safety we had constructed rapidly dissolving. My heart raced, a powerful mix of fear radiating through me, yet within that fear, a defiance ignited. The knowledge that my brother was still somewhere in this game planted a seed of resoluteness deep within my core. "Run!" Sam yelled, breaking the paralysis that had taken hold. But before we could move, the man raised a hand, signaling for us to stop, a smirk dancing across his face. "We've been waiting for you." A chilling realization swept through me, sending a shiver deep into my bones. Something malevolent was unfolding, a trap from which there may be no escape. As I looked at Hannah, then to Sam, I could see the fear mirrored in their eyes, but there was something else as well, as shared determination, a bond forged in this fight against the darkness that had enveloped us. Just then, a loud explosion rang out from the distance, rattling the air and causing the structure of the ship to shudder violently once more. My body went rigid, my mind racing. Was that intended as a warning, a distraction, or something else entirely? "Stay close," Sam shouted as we scrambled toward an exit, abandoning the map that now felt like an albatross around my neck. The chaos of the moment mingled with an undeniable threat of panic, leaving me breathless and questioning the very fabric of trust that had been woven throughout this harrowing journey. As we dashed toward the door, I realized that there was no turning back. The stakes had grown impossibly high, and with every frenzied glance I stole at my companions, I understood that we were stepping deeper into a world where the lines of loyalty and betrayal blurred. And just like that, the fear morphed into something entirely new, an unrelenting desire to uncover the truth. All while the shadows closed in around us, reminding me that the greatest danger might not lie just within the abyss but possibly in the very connections forged in the heart of this storm. The wind howled through the dock, carrying with it the acrid scent of burnt wood and the distant sound of sirens, echoing the chaos unfurling within me. As we stumbled off the ship, the urgency of the moment wrapped around my throat like a vice. My pulse thrummed in tune with the footsteps of our pursuer, the man who seemed to know us far too well for comfort. "Go!" Sam urged again, pushing me ahead while glancing back toward the shadows. Each footfall felt weighted with the echoes of our shared fears and the unanswered questions swirling in the back of my mind. This was no longer just about finding the map or my brother, it was about survival, and the bond forged through this immense struggle. Hannah's breath hitched beside me, a testament to the terror we all felt. "We can't let him catch us." The narrow path between two looming vessels constricted as we fled, the darkness closing in like the walls of a prison. I could hear our hearts racing, a symphony of desperation enveloping us. A thought flickered through my memory of my brother's laughter, light and carefree, now warped by the imminent threat closing in. We dashed into an alleyway, the brick walls slick with moisture, catching our breath for a moment. Hannah leaned against the cold stone, her face pale, yet her eyes burned with vibrant determination, a contradiction that grounded me amidst the storm threatening to consume us. "I can't do this without knowing he's safe," I mumbled, struggling to steady my breathing. Every second felt like an hour, and the weight of uncertainty felt heavier than ever. "You can't give up hope," she replied, her voice resolute yet soothing. "If there's a way to find him through this mess, we will." Just then, a flicker of movement caught Sam's eye. He gestured silently, and we edged back into the shadows. "We need to stay low," he whispered. "We can't let him know where we are." A moment later, the figure of our pursuer appeared at the end of the alley, the contours of his face illuminated by the weak light of a street lamp. Our hearts pounded in synchrony, thudding against our ribcages as he scanned the area like a raptor seeking its prey. I pressed myself against the wall, hoping with every fiber of my being that he wouldn't cut through the shadows we clung to. As he passed without noticing us, I glanced at Hannah, her jaw clenched in concentration, and then at Sam, whose eyes reflected a fierce determination. The fear surrounding us transformed into something palpably a dare, and a challenge that ignited a flicker of rebellion inside me. "Let's find another way to the docks," Sam urged, leading us through a labyrinth of alleyways, our path winding deeper into the heart of the darkened city. We moved cautiously, the faint echoes of the outside world finally fading as we navigated towards a dilapidated building that seemed forgotten by time. The walls were cracked, but riddled within them were the vestiges of a drawing of a child clinging to a balloon, a poem flaking off in the corners, a reminder that warmth existed even in the bleakest places. As we entered the building, the dim light filtered through shattered windows, outlining the scattered debris and memories that lay strewn across the floor. Among the remnants, I spotted a pile of old photographs, yellowed and crumbling. I knelt down, sifting through the images like a scavenger searching for treasures untold. One particular image caught my eye, a photo of 3 children at the beach, their laughter evident through the grainy film, my brother among them, arms draped around the shoulders of 2 other kids. For a fleeting moment, nostalgia washed over me, illuminating the darkness encasing my heart. It was a moment that reminded me of what we stood to lose. "Look at this," I said, holding the photo up for Sam and Hannah to see. "That's him," Hannah whispered, her voice thick with emotion. But before we could linger on the moment, the ground trembled again, a reminder of the chaos outside. "We don't have time," Sam said solemnly, shoving the photo into my pocket with an urgency that felt electric. "We need to keep moving." I followed blindly, battling thoughts of my brother and a lingering sense of hope. Maybe there was still time to find him before it all unraveled. As we pressed on, the air grew heavier with unease. The building had its own spirit, its darkness intertwining with our fears, each creak further embedding the urgency of our plight. Emerging onto the other side of the building, we were greeted by the fading light of dusk, and for a brief moment, I allowed myself to breathe in the salty air. My brother's world out there, waiting to reconnect. Then the world shifted with alarming rapidity. A shout echoed from behind us as the figure emerged once more, forcing us into a mad sprint down the street. "Get back here!" he roared, his promised retribution punctuating each word with venom. We dashed towards the structure of the docks once more, knowing we needed to reach the water. But suddenly, Hannah tripped, her ankle twisting unnaturally. A scream caught in her throat as she collapsed to the ground beside me, and the weight of desperation thickened in the air. "Sam, help her!" I cried instinctively, caring for the bond she had forged with me along this journey. But just as Sam turned to assist, the sound of tires screeched to a halt nearby, and I saw an unfamiliar car race toward us, piercing through the night like a lost ship seeking a harbor. My heart pounded as I struggled to comprehend what was unfolding. The door burst open, and a figure leapt out, an unexpected silhouette that sent my mind spiraling in confusion. It was a woman, fierce and unyielding in posture, her eyes scanning the scene before settling on me. "What the hell are you doing here?" she shouted, urgency woven in every syllable. I stood frozen, the shrillness of her voice colliding with the chaos around me. The shadows of the docks stretched behind us, obscuring everything I thought I knew. As that woman sprinted towards us, the threads of fate intertwined once more, dragging us further into an unexpected embrace of hope, misplaced trust, and looming danger. "Get in!" she commanded, and just like that, the moment hung in the balance, an invitation standing between our survival and the shadows ready to swallow us whole. The chaos wrapped around us like a thick fog, disorienting and oppressive. I felt the weight of Hannah's injury hanging heavily in the air, and the sight of the woman charging towards us only deepened the turmoil swirling in my chest. My body screamed at me to run, to flee from this stranger who might bring more danger instead of salvation. But everything I knew was in fragmented pieces, leaving me with no choice but to trust my instincts. "Hannah!" Sam exclaimed, scrambling to lift her, but she winced, tears springing to her eyes. "We need to go. Now, get in!" the woman shouted again, her voice cutting through the chaos. It was laced with authority, but something in her gaze felt off. Was it concern, or merely impatience? I couldn't tell. Hesitation gnawed at me. Who was she? What could be lurking within that car? But as the sound of footsteps grew closer and more desperate, I could feel the imminent threat looming over us like a dark cloud about to unleash its storm. It was as if the shadows were reaching for us, ready to pull us back into the depths of despair. "Please!" Hannah rasped, her veins pulsing with pain. The plea in her eyes sliced through my fear, reigniting my instinct to protect. I grasped her shoulders, offering silent support. "All right," I said slowly, determination sealing my resolve. "All right, well go." Sam nodded, pulling Hannah up gently while the woman stood still, watching us, her features unreadable as she waited for us to make a move. With Sam supporting Hannah, we stumbled toward the car, my heart racing with apprehension. Every instinct told me to be wary, yet it was the urgency of the situation that propelled us forward. As we slid into the back seat, the interior felt cramped yet inviting, a brief sanctuary from the roaring storm outside. The woman slammed the doors shut behind us, and the car jerked into motion. "Tell me what's going on," she demanded, her eyes darting between us. "Why is he after you? He knows too much," Sam murmured, his voice cracking under pressure. "He's been following us." "Who?" she pressed, her fingers tapping anxiously against the steering wheel, her gaze fixed ahead. "Just someone who shouldn't exist in our lives anymore," I managed, my voice shaking as I recalled the whisper of danger that followed us through the city. "Good enough," the woman snapped, just as a siren wailed in the distance, its sound echoing the urgency that enveloped us. "We need to get to a safe spot." I caught a glimpse of Hannah's face beside me, the terror mingled with a fragile hope that made my heart ache. For a moment, I was reminded of the warmth of her laughter, the strength she had displayed along our journey. That spirit, so vibrant against the heavy darkness of our reality, became our unspoken tether. The woman navigated through the dimly lit streets with precision, her knuckles white with intensity as she drove. "I'm here to help," she said finally, her voice softer now as if reading the uncertainty in our eyes. "Who are you?" I asked, desperation clawing at me. "Someone who has a stake in this," she replied, her gaze still fixed ahead. "There are bigger things at play, and it's not just about you or your brother anymore. This involves all of us." "What does that even mean?" Sam snapped, sitting straighter, protective of Hannah, who had silently succumbed to the pain and was leaning against me, her breathing shaky. But as she began to answer, the words faltered in her throat, swallowed by the noise outside. It felt as if we were caught in a maelstrom, where clarity eluded us, and every moment felt like a gamble with fate. The roar of a car engine erupted behind us, heavy and aggressive. My stomach dropped as I turned to see headlights cutting through the darkness, closing the distance rapidly. "They're right behind us!" I cried, my heart racing. "Hold on!" she shouted, feet slamming on the gas. The car lurched forward, and I braced myself against the seat, Hannah's fingers digging into my arm, her silent plea reverberating in the air. "Who's chasing us?" I forced the words out, but the car's tires screeched as we veered around a corner, barely managing to keep from skidding. Before she could answer, the pursuing vehicle swung around too, its headlights piercing through the darkness like an executing hand. The screech of tires sent a shiver down my spine, and every ounce of fear erupted as the other car inched closer, threatening to overtake us. "What do we do?" Sam shouted, panic spilling, but the woman had resolve. "We have to lose them." She slammed the steering wheel, a fierce determination emanating from her, as she pushed the accelerator harder, the car responding with a roar that reminded me we weren't out of options yet. A sharp turn, a jolt, and suddenly, we were tearing through narrow streets, an obstacle course carved from desperation. As the noise of the pursuing vehicle grew fainter, a flicker of hope ignited within me. But just as I thought we might escape, the radio in the car crackled with static before the woman's phone flashed ominously on the dashboard an unknown number. "What is it?" I asked instinctively, heart in my throat as she picked up the call, a brief glance of concern washing over her features. "It's him," she whispered. In that moment, everything shifted. The air in the car grew thick, wrapping us in a shroud of foreboding as she answered, her voice steady but laden with fear. "I don't care what you think you know," she said, her tone unwavering. "This ends tonight." I exchanged glances with Sam and Hannah, the weight of inevitability pressing down on us as if the world was about to fracture again. What had we uncovered? What tumultuous ties bound us all, our fates intertwined, hearts racing? We held our breath as the truth began to unfurl, painting shadows across our future. Soft bravery and betrayal, hope and despair all waiting for the night's final unraveling. The car continued to weave through the night, a moving sanctuary fraught with tension. My heart pounded hard in my chest, matching the rapid cadence of the woman's voice as she spoke quietly into the phone. Her expression shifted from steely determination to palpable fear, transforming her from a figure of strength into someone deeply vulnerable, haunted by invisible battles. Hannah shifted against me, her breathing shallow and uneven. I desperately wanted to shield her from everything, just wrap her in the warmth of a blanket, and close the door on the chaos outside. "Stay with me," I whispered to her, grasping her hand tightly. She offered me a faint smile, but it barely masked the pain etched across her face. The woman's voice broke through the fog of my thoughts. "You should know by now that this is bigger than just you three. You're not the only ones he's been watching." The intensity of her words landed heavily in the confined space. I felt my stomach churn. Could this mess extend beyond our already complicated lives? Sam and I exchanged worried looks, the connection between us a silent pact against an unknown future. "Who else?" Sam's voice trembled as he grasped tight to Hannah's shoulder, offering her support in the only way he knew how. The woman hung up the phone, brow furrowed, and I could see her wrestling with something monumental. "There are others who are in danger. People who can't defend themselves because they don't know." A chill ran down my spine. "And we can trust you? Just like that?" "I'm not asking you to," she replied firmly, her vulnerability morphing back into that potent strength. "But if we don't stick together, we'll be scattered like ashes in the wind. You have to understand, he's relentless." With every curve and shift of the car, Hannah's expression remained locked in a mixture of fear and determination. I could feel her will to fight, even as her body was faltering. "We have to find these others," she said, the sudden zeal in her tone both surprising and uplifting. "We can't just stay hidden. That's what he wants. It's too dangerous," Sam countered quickly, eyes wide with disbelief. "You can barely move. We're already in this deep." "We can't turn back now," she insisted, gripping my arm with a fierce urgency. I looked at her, trying to gauge whether her spirit was driven by sheer defiance, or genuine belief that our involvement could really make a difference. "Where do we even start?" I asked, my voice laced with uncertainty. With a deep inhale, the woman turned the steering wheel sharply, guiding us into a dimly lit alleyway. It felt like entering the belly of the Biasta quiet hideout amidst the storm. "There's a safe house," she said, her eyes scanning the dusk. "It's a place where people like us go when the world feels too heavy to bear." Hope stirred cautiously. What if this house could provide more than safety? What if it became an anchor in our tumultuous sea? "But we have to hurry," she added, the urgency creeping back into her voice. "He's been known to operate in this area." The tension swirled anew, settling in the pit of my stomach. But I could see faint flickers of light glowing just ahead, signs of life where despair had claimed territory. We slipped through the shadows, leaving behind our fears, even if just for a moment. As we pulled up in front of a weather-beaten building, a series of loud knocks echoed from the inside, sending an unexpected tremor of frustration through my body. "What now?" I asked, heart racing. "Trust me," she whispered. "Just breathe." But before any of us could grasp the magnitude of where we were or why, the door opened just enough for a familiar face to peer out. "Wait! It's you!" The woman's eyes widened in disbelief. Shock rippled through the air. "Chloe? What are you doing here?" Hannah's voice barely rose above a whisper, recognition suddenly piercing through the emotional turmoil. I stared, confusion washing over me. What was this connection? Who was Chloe? Just as I opened my mouth to speak, the door swung open wide, revealing a group of anxious faces. "Let her in. We can't stay out here." The flicker of hope that had ignited a few moments ago dimmed rapidly, replaced by the harsh wind of unfamiliarity. I questioned everything: who these people were, what ties linked our stories together. Just as I felt a tether connect us, a wave of uncertainty crashed in, threatening to pull me under. And then, without warning, the blaring of horns filled the alley, a cacophony of noise shattering my fragile illusion of safety. My heart sank. "I think it's him," the woman said, dread staining her voice. In that instant, everything became clear. The sanctuary we had thought we'd found was now a battleground, a fragile alliance hanging in the balance. We had sought refuge, but we were suddenly surrounded by the enemy. What do we do? Sam screamed, his panic palpable. I felt Hannah squeeze my hand tighter as if to ground herself amidst the chaos. Run, the woman commanded, her tone now laced with urgency that rang in my ears like a siren, and just as we turned towards the chaos, a piercing shout echoed out, freezing us in place. You can't hide forever. With that, our fragile union faced the onslaught of unknown dangers, and everything we fought for teetered on the edge, waiting for the night to swallow us whole. In that moment, I understood there was no turning back, and the light of hope flickered uncertainly now, casting shadows over our uncertain fate. As the echoes of that ominous shout layered over the chaos, I felt the world shift beneath me. The night felt darker, each breath a reminder of the fragility of our situation. Hannah's grip on my hand tightened until I was sure she'd leave marks, the urgency mingling with desperation. It's not safe here, Sam urged, his voice rising above the cacophony. He was scanning the street for signs of our pursuer. I could see the fear etched into his brow under the dim streetlights. We need to move now. The woman, Chloe, shifted into action, her voice strong yet steady. Follow me. She turned without checking, trusting us to do the same. There was an undeniable conviction in her that kindled something within me, a flicker of determination illuminated by our shared predicament. We stumbled behind her, driven by instinct more than a clear plan. As we dashed down another alley, the shadows twisted, surrounding us like specters. I glanced back, half expecting to see figures closing in, but found only dim light chasing after us. Where do we go? I gasped, but Chloe didn't falter. Just keep moving, she shouted, and I felt the weight of her resolve spur us on even as fear gnawed at my insides. With every step, I felt Hannah shift her weight against me, her quickened breaths matching the frantic staccato of our strides. I risked a glance at her face, which was illuminated intermittently by alley lights. Her eyes flickered with both fear and hope, creating a bittersweet tapestry woven into her expression. Stay close, I won't let go, I said softly, trying to anchor her with my words. We'll find shelter soon, just hold on. We need to figure out who he is, Hannah murmured, her breath catching. If we have a name, a face, we can make a plan. First, let's survive. Sam shot back defensively, his adrenaline lacing every word with urgency and caution. He seemed to gain energy from his fear, channeling it into purposeful movements. We turned sharply into a covered passage, a space adorned with creeping vines clinging desperately to brick. The air seemed cooler here, filled with the scent of damp earth, a stark contrast to the warmth of the alley we had just left. It was oddly comforting, as if this protected nook might shelter us from more than just our pursuer. Chloe pressed her back against the wall, her chest heaving as she whispered, I know a safe spot just ahead. The fire in her eyes wasn't just survival, it was resolve. But we have to keep this low. There are ears everywhere. Just then, from behind a corner, a couple of stray cats darted across our path, breaking the tension with a flash of movement. I chuckled against my will, the absurdity of the situation momentarily cutting through the air. It was a small oasis of normalcy, life continuing even in a time of turmoil. For a fleeting moment, our shared laughter lightened my heart, giving us a sense of camaraderie as we clung together in a world that seemed so burdened. We're going to make it, I whispered to Hannah, who nodded, squeezing my hand tighter. We just have to trust each other. Trust is hard right now, you know that, she replied, glancing quickly at Chloe before fixing her gaze back to mine. I know, I said, my heart pounding with an uncomfortable truth. But we need something to hold on to. A flicker of light yanked my attention, and I turned to see Chloe surveying the area. There it is, she announced, her eyes resolving on an old door at the far end of the passage. The safe haven one's supposed to be here. Just hold on to your hope a little longer. As we approached, I felt a cold ripple run down my spine. What awaited us behind that door? Was it refuge or another layer of danger? Chloe reached forward, her hands trembling slightly as they met the handle, and for a moment, Her face was a mirror of my own uncertainty. On the count of 3, she said, turning to us, determination battling her fear. We go in together. But before any count could begin, another shout rang out from the street. This way! They're here! Time slowed, the knowledge that whatever safety lay behind that door was slipping away. The warm glow of hope cast by the door felt extinguished, and I glanced at Hannah, fear pooling in her eyes. Now! Chloe's voice pierced through the thick cloud of dread, and with a collective resolve, we pushed through the door, hearts racing into the unknown. As we stumbled inside, the door slammed shut behind us. The air was cooler, shadows dancing on the walls. The darkness made it difficult to see, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness wasn't just outside anymore. It was all around us. Is everyone all right? I asked, my voice low and cautious. But before anyone could respond, we heard the unmistakable crunch of footsteps approaching outside. Hope drained from the room like sand through an hourglass, and my heart raced anew as we braced ourselves, knowing that our sanctuary might lie on the edge of ruin or perhaps within it itself. Then, with a deafening crash, the door we had just entered through flew open, floodlights pouring into our dim sanctuary, illuminating a new fear in stark relief. We know you're in there. The voice came floating in from the doorway, filled with menace. You can't run forever. In that moment, the precarious line between safety and danger snapped, leaving us hanging on a thread. The air in the room was thick with tension, punctuated by the harsh glow of the floodlights. Shadows twisted and stretched unnaturally on the walls as if they could sense our despair. Hannah's fingers intertwined with mine, and I could feel her heartbeat matching the rapid thud of my own. Chloe stepped forward, silhouetted against the bright light, her face set in grim determination. Do not move! She commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos. We're not here to hurt you, but we will if you come any closer. The figure in the doorway hesitated, a fleeting moment of uncertainty flickering across their features. It was the slightest crack in their menacing facade, but it offered us a glimmer of hope. Just long enough to wonder if they were our pursuer or a potential ally. You don't understand, there's more at stake than just us, Chloe persisted, her voice growing louder, fueled by an urgency I didn't fully grasp. Behind me, Sam exhaled sharply, despair and frustration evident on his face. We need to find a way out. This can't be the end. He began searching the room, eyes darting to every corner, desperate for an escape that felt increasingly out of reach. Wait, listen, Hannah implored, her voice breaking as she stepped closer to the entrance. We know you're looking for us, but we can help you. We have information. The figure hesitated again, eyes narrowing as they scanned our faces, searching for the truth. Then they stepped closer, allowing the harsh light to illuminate more than just their silhouette, a young woman, with clear blue eyes that mirrored the storm brewing inside my chest. What kind of information? She demanded. Hesitantly, I spoke up. If you know why we're being hunted, we can help each other. We know something about him. The tension in the room hung like a storm cloud, pregnant with unspoken revelations. A flicker of recognition passed through the woman's eyes, and I couldn't help but wonder if she was also a victim, if she, too, was running away from something dark. Who sent you? She pressed, a flash of alarm in her gaze. Not someone, I confessed, feeling the weight of my uncertainty. Something greater. We found something we weren't supposed to. Before I could finish my thought, the sound of footsteps echoed ominously from the alley outside, sharpening the panic coiling in my gut. What's coming for us will stop at nothing, I said, my voice cracking with urgency. But we can fight. Together. For a moment, time suspended as our eyes locked, an unspoken understanding forming a bridge between us. It was as if we could see the reflection of our shared fears and silent hope, a reminder that even in darkness, connections could be forged. The woman took a step back, glancing outside briefly, conflicted. The footsteps grew louder, an approaching tide ready to consume us. I need to know more, she said finally, determination weaving through her tone. But first, we need to get out of here. Hannah darted her eyes toward me, worry clouding her expression. Are you sure we can trust her? I don't think we have a choice, I replied, heart racing faster than my words could form. We need to work together. There's strength in numbers. Chloe nodded, turning back towards the figure. What's your name? Eva, the woman replied curtly, her voice laced with a mix of caution and resignation. And then, in the cadence that only crisis could evoke, she pulled the door open just enough for us to slip through into the blaring chaos outside. The moment we stepped out, a resounding call ricocheted down the alley. They're out. Get them. Panic erupted through me, our feet moving instinctively in tandem as we sprinted into the night, seeking refuge. The air crackled with danger, but within the chaos, there was something Maureen ember of shared purpose igniting between us. Follow me, Eva shouted, darting down the opposite alley, her instincts guiding us into cramped spaces and tight corners where the shadows embraced us like desperate allies. As our hearts hammered, I caught glimpses of Sam and Chloe behind me, each face etched with determination. But even as we fled, uncertainty loomed like a specter, whispering questions and doubts into the air. I could feel Hannah's grip once again solidifying, and in that moment, I resolved to protect her, to breach this storm together even if it meant facing the secrets we had unearthed. Then, just as we rounded a corner, a figure appeared in front of USA Man standing in the shadows, a sinister grin spreading across his face, haloed by the flickering glow of a nearby street lamp. Found you, he drawled, voice smooth as silk covering steel. Heart racing, I glanced back at Hannah and Sam, whose expressions mirrored my own horror. But there was no time for despair, only the need to exist, to escape. The only choice now was to fight or flee. As we stood there, frozen in the cusp of realization, a flood of memories washed over Meth, meaning of trust, the fragility of hope, and the knowledge that in our darkest moments, unity was our beacon. What had begun as a simple request had spiraled into a fight for survival, swirling us deeper into a web of secrets and danger we could barely comprehend. But as the figure approached, resolute and ominous, I knew it wasn't just our lives that were at stake, it was everything we had fought to protect. And at that precipice, I felt the ground beneath me tremble, the fabric of our reality shifting yet again, revealing layers of treachery and the profound strength in our fragile alliance. The air felt electric in the moments following that chilling revelation. I stood frozen, grappling with the reality laid bare before us, a darkness more profound than I had ever anticipated, hovering just at the edge of our fragile alliances. The man's presence felt like a void, swallowing any flicker of hope that dared to light our path. Found you, he repeated, a twisted pleasure dancing in his eyes. Good God, those eyes! I wanted to run, to flee from this sudden threat, but despair and determination melded into an impenetrable barrier, rooting me in place. What do you want? I heard myself ask, incredulous that those two words had enough power to shift the tide. It wasn't just an inquiry, it was a challenge. A reminder that we were not merely victims trapped in this web, but active participants in our fate. A smirk tugged at the corners of his lips, sure, confident. It's not about what I want, it's about what you can give me. The shadows twisted behind him, the darkness a living thing that crept forward, enveloping the space between us. I could see it in his posture, the way he radiated authority. He reveled in what he had taken from us already, the uncertainty, our fears gnawing away at our resolve. We're not afraid of you, Sam interjected, positioning himself just slightly in front of Hannah. It was a small gesture, but the solidarity it offered was mighty, a testament to the strength we had built together. But fear? Fear is what keeps you alive. He chuckled softly, each ripple of sound striking against my heart, resonating with each thud like a mournful drum. You're all caught in a game, my dear children, and you don't even know the rules. I could feel the crackling tension in the air, like a taut wire ready to snap. My instinct screamed for us to flee, yet a part of me held firm. Well, decide the rules from now on. My voice trembled, laced with uncertainty, yet twinked with a desperate strength. We're taking back control. And with that, Eva moved beside me, her adrenaline infectious. Let's turn this game back on you, she said, the spark of rebellion igniting in the depths of her gaze. It was a simple idea, but the notion of reversing our roles, of stepping into the arena as more than mere pieces on a board, lifted the heavy weight of despair. Together, Chloe murmured softly, reaffirming what we had instinctively felt: we were not alone in this fight. In an electric moment, our collective spirit ignited a fire. My heart raced as I exchanged glances with the others. Trust, solidarity, and an unwavering determination swirled amongst us. This was no longer solitary. This was a battle fought shoulder to shoulder. "Let's go!" I shouted, propelling us forward. The urgency surged through me, and I could see the recklessness mirrored in the eyes of my allies. As we charged at him, the space warped around us. It felt like stepping through invisible barriers, the energy shifting as a rush of adrenaline drove our feet. Before we could reach him, he stumbled back, surprise flooding his calculated demeanor. He hadn't expected a united front. Sam pushed Hannah forward, battling against the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. With hearts pounding in unison, we surged ahead, breaking through whatever tether bound us to the past. "We won't let you take us or anyone else," I shouted, each word reverberating through the night as if proclaiming our new truth. And as we pushed back against the darkness, the adrenaline coursed through my veins, the painful worry I carried within me morphing into fierce determination. I felt the pulse of hope thrumming in the chaos surrounding us, a beacon guiding our way through the storm threatening to consume everything we stood for. We dashed past him, pulling together, weaving around each other as the shadows clawed at our heels. "Don't look back!" I cried out as we continued our flight through the thicket of uncertainty. The darkness chased, but in that moment, we became a singular force bound not just by circumstance but by the resolve etched into our souls. And as we turned into another dark alley, I heard the echoes of the past fading behind us, leaving only the thrill of potential in its wake. "The docks!" Hannah shouted, her voice rasping yet urgent. "We have to get to the docks, right?" I replied, mind racing as we pushed forward, sweat mingling with the salty air, adrenaline mingling with the remnants of doubt that had tainted our journey. We burst into the open, flooded under the dim lighting of the old docks. The water stretched endlessly before us, a shimmering expanse under the veil of night. My breath caught at the sight of familiarity tugging at my heartstrings, and for a moment, I could almost see my brother's face in the rippling reflections. "There!" Eva shouted, pointing towards a weathered boat bobbing gently in the tide. "We might be able to use it to get away." The thought filled me with both dread and hope. It was a chance to escape, a chance to search the waters as a new beginning. But as we approached, the tension erupted anew. The sound of angry shouts punctured the night. "They're coming!" Chloe warned, her eyes scanning the shadows, filled with urgency and fear. "Get on, now!" Sam commanded as he pushed Hannah onto the boat. I climbed aboard right behind her, heart pounding. We had to move, to leave every ounce of fear and uncertainty behind. And just then, I heard a voice rising over the shouts, sharp and familiar, slicing through the tension. "Julia! You're not alone." I turned sharply, my heart leaping into my throat at the sight of a figure emerging from the shadows. "Daniel?" I breathed. Recognition illuminating more than just my physique was the spark of hope personified. My long-lost brother stood before me, weathered and worn, but alive. "Come on, we need to go," he urged, his voice frantic yet solid. A fierce protection wrapped itself around me, as if standing on the shores of a long-awaited reunion. "Daniel!" The air pooled with disbelief and warmth as our family bond rezzed amid chaos. My brother, the cornerstone of the labyrinth I had spent months navigating, had returned to restore the balance amidst despair. "It's you! It's really you!" Every tether of loss unraveled in that moment. My heart surged, time stretching around us, allowing me to breathe in the return of hope, scattered like ashes in the storm. "We have to get out of here," Daniel said again, urgency woven into every syllable. As he hurled himself onto the deck, the fears that had once tethered us to darkness fell away, replaced by the burning fire of family, of loyalty. As we clambered away from the bleeding darkness pursuing us, I felt the connection between us, my entire being buoyed by the force of our reunion. Together, we commanded the shadows, weaving through the threats like tempestuous waves crashing against the shore. In the fragility of that instant where light met darkness, where hope reclaimed its place. I understood then that this journey had forged more than just an unbreakable bond. It had transformed fear into freedom, shadows into light. As we dropped anchor into newfound safety, I finally grasped what my heart had been craving all along. The world outside may still hold dangerous, a tapestry of uncertainty woven into our lives, but together, we were a force, a relentless tide that would weather every storm that awaited beyond the horizon. And as I stood beside my brother, a wild yearning spilling over, I whispered into the vast night sky, "We will always fight together." Because with every beat of my heart, I realized that sometimes, all it takes is one simple request, the yearning for connection, and from that request blooms unimaginable strength, binding us tighter than we could ever have imagined. Together, we would rise again.